The leader of the Joint All-Domain Command and Control effort, Lieutenant General Dennis Krall, says the chairman of the Joint Chiefs, General Mark Milley, will get a new JADC2 strategy within days. A piece in Breaking Defense this week argues that JADC2 makes the third offset strategy real. Bob Work is former Deputy Secretary of Defense and architect of the third offset strategy. Bob, welcome. It's great to see you. I begin with a quote. The third offset strategy is about developing the means to offset advantages or advances in anti-access area denial weapons and other advanced technologies that are proliferating, that we see proliferating around the world. That quote from one Robert Work on January 28th, 2015. 6 years later, do you see the third offset on track, Bob?
Well, first of all, it's great to be here, Francis. And I'd just like to remind the readers that the third offset strategy is just one of 7 lines of effort of the Defense Innovation Initiative that was announced by then Secretary of Defense Chuck Hagel in November of 2014. So I am very, very pleased that all of the basic thrusts of the DII and the third offset are now evident. You know, it was a shift to focus on great power competitors. It said that we needed a new strategy that was written in 2018, that the primary problem we faced was a long-term strategic competition, and the very, very important thing that the Department of Defense faced was a challenge to its military technical superiority. And the third offset strategy was the line of effort to maintain our military technical superiority. And as far as I'm concerned, the department really has followed that path. They have gone after artificial intelligence. They've gone after all sorts of digital information advances, new types of missiles, new types of CONOPS. And the JADC2 is the kind of thing that puts it all together. One, it's a concept, but it also is going to be the nervous system and the backbone of future joint force battle networks, these big digital constructs that we put together to fight campaigns. So, yes, I would say that the third offset is alive and well, but, you know, I'm a biased observer.
I went back and read the speech at which you basically rolled out the philosophy, the theory behind the third offset. And it strikes me as we look at that, as we think about it more philosophically, that this is really the nature of the core of the Defense Department for the foreseeable future, isn't it? There are 3 elements that you talked about in that speech that were kind of the main differences between the first and second offsets and what you were proposing that day 6 years ago. And those were much more trying, temporal component, no single monolithic adversary like the Cold War, tech breakthroughs driven by the private sector. Those are still exactly what we're looking at and facing today, aren't we, Bob?
Yes, I think that's true. On the temporal aspect, what I meant by that is in the Cold War, we were going up against a competitor who could compete with us technologically in niche areas like space, nuclear weapons, and undersea capabilities. The Soviets were extremely good in submarines and submarine warfare. But on the broader technological playing field, they just could not hang with us. They couldn't do the semiconductors and the very advanced combat systems. The Chinese are a different kettle of fish altogether. They've got the technological mettle to stick with us step for step. They're going to press us and maybe surpass us in some areas. We're going to press them and surpass them in others. But the key thing about the temporal aspect is we're not going to get an offset strategy that gives us a decade or 2 advantage. We're going to constantly have to be moving forward. The Chinese will make a move, we'll make a second move, we'll make a move, the Chinese will quickly follow. So it's that temporal aspect of the competition that's going to be very much different than what we faced in the Cold War.
We talk about iterative technology all the time on this program in the context of the Defense Department and all across the enterprise of the federal government. That iterative idea seems to be at play here too, Bob, and I wonder if that means that rather than having a 4th offset at some point in the future, if you think we may just be in the third offset mode for decades or longer than decades where we're constantly competing in the way that you just described.
Yes, I mean, this is a decade-long competition, and decades probably. The Chinese are going to be the most difficult strategic competitor we've ever faced. They can hang with us economically, they can hang with us technologically, and they've got a vast talent pool, and they try to use it as best they can. So this is going to be a knockdown, drag-out competition. Now, my money's on the U.S., primarily because we can call upon an extraordinarily innovative tech base in the United States. And JADC2 is just one manifestation of the way the department is now thinking differently about how it's going to have to operate in the future. And we're having all sorts of experiments, et cetera. Now, I'm a glass half full type of guy. I'd rather be going faster, but the department is moving out smartly. That's for certain.
30 seconds, Bob. The technological part of it, the department seems to have its arms around. The economic part of it, given what we've talked about budgets and so on, is that potentially more challenging?
Well, I think my own view is from 23 on out, fiscal year 2023 on out, we have to plan for really no better than a flat budget, possibly inflated. So that means that our prioritization is going to have to be really, really sharp. And we're going to have to be ruthless about getting rid of capabilities that are okay, but not really good enough. So this always sets up all sorts of arguments within the department and all sorts of debates between the department and Congress. So it's going to be sporty no matter what.
Bob Work, thank you very much. Great to have you on as always.
It's great to be here, Francis.